So it's the morning after the UK Supreme Court decision that the suspension of the Parliament by the Prime Minister Boris Johnson was unlawful. So they're reconvening today. So let's check in how the media in the UK is reporting the morning after and the day the Parliament is resuming. Then we're checking with the market as well very quickly. Juliana Olayinka, my colleague from our London studios, is standing by. A very big day, the morning after, as I always like to put it here. Juliana, good morning. Okay, I'm sure you can hear me, Juliana. So, how's this big story being reported today? I'm sure everyone has it on their front cover.
Bosun. Well, let me just continue with the fact that it has been a huge story here. Of course, we know we've got Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, in New York at the United Nations General Assembly. He was reacting, saying that he completely disagrees with the unanimous ruling by the Supreme Court. He'll be flying in early today. Of course, the Parliament is due to resume today at about 11:30 a.m. BST, which is probably in an hour. There will be no regular Prime Minister questions, which does take place on a Wednesday, but it's sure to be a showdown between opposition parties and the government. They have not ruled out a second prorogation. They feel like the elite, particularly the opposition parties, are trying to stop Brexit. In the press, most people are saying that Boris Johnson should either resign or they put it back to the public and we have a general election, although it's not clear whether or not these parties will vote for a general election before the October the 31st deadline. So pretty much back to the Brexit paralysis we've been talking about for months and months now.
Okay, so very interesting. I'm sure. I'm just thinking about the welcome party that the Prime Minister Boris Johnson will get when he lands back in London, number 10 Downing Street. Then, of course, he will have his day with the parliamentarians in the next couple of days. So we're going to watch that very carefully. But what's the market? Where is the market street right now on the development? Yesterday, from London and those impeachment inquiries been set up by the Democrats in the U.S. How is the UK market faring this morning?
Well, it's interesting because, of course, you've got political turmoil on both sides of the Atlantic, and the FTSE 100 definitely doesn't like it. It opened much lower this morning, or around 34 points lower. But, of course, the pound is kind of muted because it doesn't know whether or not, or traders don't know, whether or not we're likely going to be going into a Brexit deal rather than a no deal because of the prorogation ruling yesterday. So at the moment, the US dollar is trading up on the pound by 0.2%, and we're pretty flat on sterling versus the euro. So that at the moment is trading at €1.13.
Okay, final one for just about a minute. Can you bring us up to date about Thomas Cook? What's cooking with the repatriation, the staffers? Some of them are still overseas. They're not sure what's going to happen to them. Any idea here? We have politics on one side, but we need to spare a thought for customers and staffers of Thomas Cook Group who are still stranded outside the UK.
Well, Bosun, the repatriation effort still continued. Tens of thousands of people are still stranded abroad. The issue is the people that can't afford to try and fly with another airline. Of course, there are 40 jumbo jets which the British government have chartered in, and there are assistance from Virgin Atlantic as well as EasyJet, but there have been reports that some airlines are, really taking the opportunity to surge their prices, and people have been complaining about that. Plus, as well, the chief executives, I spoke to you earlier this week about some of their fat paychecks, their bonuses that went up to millions. There's been talks of them being hurled into a Commons inquiry about just how things went wrong. But, of course, we're still seeing those really terrible stories of families stuck aboard. But hopefully, over the weekend, the majority of them will be back in Britain.
Okay, Juliana, we're going to have some time in the afternoon to bring us up to speed on this and a few more other stories you're always tracking for us. Thank you so much, and quite a nice interview there with the Central Bank Chief yesterday, Juliana Olayinka from our London studios.